Hey there everybody, how are you guys doing today? Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we're going to be talking about guitars, my favorite thing in the world. So there are a few guitars that I own in my collection that I get asked about a lot, and the reason probably is because they're not super common versions of what these guitars are. You know, some might consider them to be rare, or I'm sure all these that I'm going to talk about you can find, they're just not the easiest to find, so I guess that makes them rare. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into these, and hopefully this answers a lot of questions. I'm gonna talk about specs that I know of the instruments, because one thing about a couple of them, there's not actually a lot of information out there on the guitars, and I feel very fortunate to get to own all these. So let's go. So number one, this is my Crackle Charvel. Back in the 80s they were called the Charvel Predator, is the actual naming of them. And what catches people's attention is because they did not come with maple necks back then at all. The original neck to this one, before I owned it, was actually broken. As far as we can tell, we believe the body to be an 89. We're not completely sure. That's why I say it's kind of cool, because it's a guitar that was made the same year I was born. I don't actually know that. That's just what we think, because this is not the original neck. And this is why I think people view this. Now, these in general, they're not just everywhere, so they're kind of rare, I suppose. The neck is actually from a Model 1. So the Charvel Model 1s all had maple necks. And what was kind of cool that Charvel did is the pockets were all the same, so you could interchange your necks on the old Charvels. And that way, if one broke, then you just could take a neck off another guitar, which is what this person did. And like I said, the originals was a rosewood neck, and it had a reverse headstock, which I like reverse headstocks, but I just love the way this thing looks. It's an 80s shred machine. It has the original neck pickup in it. This is not the original bridge pickup. I think it had more of like a EMG active looking original pickup. This is a Seymour Duncan custom. It's a super hot pickup. Whoever had this sanded the neck down real well. Let me see if we can kind of see that on the camera. There we go. And it's such a cool guitar, you know. It's a very inspiring guitar to play. It has a very small neck on it, which is the reason why I don't play it all the time, and a very hot pickup. It's a little bit too compressed sounding for me, but I like the guitar for what it is. So when I want this particular vibe, this is the guitar that I go for. You know, it has the old kind of before the nut locking system on it, and a top mounted Floyd Rose. But what's kind of funky is, so it's all routed out, but it's still a top mounted Floyd. I guess it's not completely routed out here, if that makes sense. But I do prefer the top mounted versus the completely recessed Floyds. Good old Jackson tuners. And that's kind of it. You know, it's very bare bones. One volume knob, a guitar without a tone knob. Yes! Even though it has a blade switch, it's actually only a 3-way. Killer 80s guitar. I love the crackle finish. That's what a lot of you guys complimented on. And, you know, from other crackles I've seen, you know, they didn't all just have the same finish. Each one was unique. And this has a very, very nice and busy crackle. Some of them weren't this busy. And you can see the back is even busier. I have the back plate, but I take the back plates off of all my guitars. It's crack-a-lackin'. Woo! Okay, now this one, this is a very asked about guitar. Looks like a normal Strat, and then you realize there's this thing. Every time I use this in a video, there are a million comments. What is this? What is this? What is this? So what this basically is, essentially this is an American standard Strat. But I think this is probably one of the best sounding ones I've ever heard, and there's a couple reasons why. Now, this extra pickup down here is something I almost never use. It does something really cool, but I really feel like this guitar was ahead of its time. So this is a Fender VG, which stood for virtual guitar, I believe. And what this is a modeling pickup. So you have your bare bones, normal 3, SSS style American Strat, but then you have this roll-in pickup, and you have these 2 extra little knobs. So this one actually controls the tuning of the guitar without actually tuning anything. It models it. You could do drop D, open G, open D, baritone, 12 string, and then you have your different style of pickup configurations down here. You have your neutral, your Strat, which I think is funny because it's already a Strat, your telly, your humbucker, and your acoustic. So this is a really wild guitar, and like I said, let's see, what year is this? This is a 2007. So back in 2007, they came out with these, and like I said, I think it was ahead of its time. It didn't really catch on. Nowadays it still sounds pretty good. It doesn't sound the best with the modeling capabilities that it has, but why I think this is one of the best sounding Strats ever. And it's kind of interesting because Eric Johnson's new Strat, he said it's like a semi-hollow. It has like the F hole in it and stuff like that. And this is why I've always thought this guitar sounded different than other Strats. Now, to get that roll-in pickup in there, they had to route out a huge chunk of the back. So this is all routed out, and empty essentially. And what I think that does is it changed the way that this Strat sounds. Having all that routed out changes it, because you got to have a battery that powers that pickup. So there's a battery compartment, your normal tremolo cavity, and then this huge section is completely hollowed out. So it's almost like it's chambered. It's a pretty light Strat. It's not super heavy, but I think that's why it sounds different. It has a more round sound to it. I think it's because it's been routed out. And that's what that is. So everyone always asks me, what is that pickup? Normal 5-way selector. Like I said, I use it. I don't even have batteries in the thing. It runs on 4 AA's, which is nice because finally it's not singing 9-volt batteries. But yeah, it's an amazing guitar. And actually, this guitar is not mine. I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning. This is my wife's. So she doesn't play it too much, so I keep the rock alive on it. Okay, now the Strat is one of the most asked about guitars. This is the most asked about guitar from you guys. Every single video I use this Les Paul in, there are a flood of questions about it, and it's because it is slightly a unique Les Paul. So this is what's known as the Les Paul KM. So essentially, it's a standard. Now the KM stands for Kalamazoo. This is one of the last runs that Gibson made in their Kalamazoo factory before they moved, before they closed it down, which is now Heritage Guitars in Kalamazoo. But this was one of the last ones. So this is a 1979 Les Paul KM. So it's kind of old, we're closing in on 40 years here. It has quite a few cool little features on it. These old style tuners. It's got the neck volute still on it. I think it's called a volute, isn't it? And obviously, it's just this beautiful plain top Les Paul. I love it. It's such a nice, just rock and roll machine. It's pretty thick. It's got the real thick binding on it. See the back there. For a while, we thought the neck was maple, but I believe it's mahogany now. I think we found that out. Because I think in the 70s, when they were under the different Nolan, is that his name? They were using maple. I think it was less expensive. But this one is mahogany, and like a lot of the 70s guitars, I think they're hit and miss. And I think this one is not a hit, but it's a home run. I loved it. We drove. I actually have a video. I'll try to remember to link to it. Me and my wife drove to Indiana to even try the guitar out because we looked at it and we loved it. And we drove over there to try this guitar out. As soon as my hands grabbed it, because here's what I think is really interesting about it, and this is what pretty much everyone says when they play it. It has a unique neck to it. So if you don't know what the KM is, basically this was Gibson. It was supposed to be a guitar that they were making for like Southern rock. It was like a Southern rock guitar. But this was their first attempt at remaking the the iconic 59, and they completely failed at it. It's not like a 59 at all. And the neck on it is this weird. It's not a big 59. It's not a small 60s neck. It's its own neck, and I think that's what I liked about it so much because I've played so many Les Pauls that I hated, and this one I grabbed it and I was just like, oh, it's a nice chunk of a neck. It's not that huge boat of a neck like a 59 can be. Or I think the 58's even bigger. And I love it. It's such a unique sounding guitar. And part of that is because of this right here. This is another commonly asked thing. You guys, what pickups are these? A lot of people think they're DiMarzios. They're not. These are actually Gibson pickups. These are called T-tops. And Gibson released these. This is the only guitar that these pickups ever came in. Because what happened was they released these, and DiMarzio sued them because of the double cream bobbins that it has on it. And because they have a patent on that, I guess, or something like that. But so to get these particular pickups, it's only in the 1979 KMs, I believe. So they sell. I see them online sometimes, and they're pretty expensive if you want a set of these pickups. And I think that's part of the whole sound. I always say this guitar has that Telly on steroids sound. It's a very bright Les Paul, but it's still thick. It's not twangy. It's just bright and bitey, so it has its own unique kind of thing going on with it. And I don't know, it's just a cool guitar. It's one of those guitars that I'm really, really proud to own, and hopefully if my son plays guitar, it's one I would love to give him one day when he can appreciate it the way that I do, because I love vintage stuff, because I'm just like, man, this guitar's, it's been along a lot longer than I have. So now there's one more guitar I want to throw in here. I have lots of other guitars, but I wouldn't necessarily consider them rare. Maybe the Telly's rare now because they don't make standards anymore. I don't know. But so there's this last guitar that was given to me by a student, and it is still one of the coolest things I've ever received. And it might not look like a rare guitar because it is simply an Epiphone. It's an Epiphone, what is it, Special 2? So this is, a pretty inexpensive guitar. But you'll notice something on it. This signature right here. So this was signed by Joe Bonamassa, which is why I think it makes it a little bit more valuable. But what makes it the most valuable to me is that a former student of mine, Donna, if you happen to be watching this, I'm still incredibly grateful, received this after she went to get Joe to sign it and went to his concert and all this cool stuff she wanted, actually, and sent it to me, which was beyond nice, so this one has a lot of sentimental value to me, and I just think it's a cool guitar. I think I'm gonna hang it up over there, or somewhere in the room. This one's gonna be hung up, and I am just, you know, again, proud to get to own this, and thank you again, Donna. Alrighty, well that is it. Hope you guys enjoyed checking out some of the guitars with me, hearing me blab about them. I know it's probably boring as all get out, but, you know, that's all I have to say. So until next time, guys, peace out, homies. Hit the subscribe button. I'll see you all later, and rock on!